Good morning, afternoon, good evening, whatever it might be. This is Cop Facts, and we're here today on Lesson 6 to talk about investigative note-taking. Almost everything you do in law enforcement is going to have to do with written documents, report writing, making observations, and all those kind of things. And what plays right into that, as much as anything, is note-taking. I think before you write anything of any length, anything important, you almost always want to take some notes. I would say anywhere from the caveman who left us carvings and drawings on the cave walls, probably used a stick in the sand maybe and drew some notes out before they actually started. Right up to modern times, let's say a professional writer who writes novels or does screenplays. I would suspect that before they write their book or their screenplay, they take notes, kind of an outline of where they're going. Otherwise, I just don't think it would work that well. And it's the same in law enforcement. Note-taking before you do a report is going to be critical. Excuse me. You can't really do your police report without taking some type of notes, whether it's a very simple call where you're just taking a complaint on a neighbor or something. Maybe a citation has been written and you're going to do a short report. You're still going to have a few notes, dates of birth, locations, addresses, times, names of everybody, and those kind of things. But we'll kind of use like a murder case as an example of what kind of notes you would need to take there. In law enforcement, there are so many reports, so many things you have to be aware of on a daily basis, whether you're going to line up and being updated on what's going on in your sector, who might be wanted, what the trends are, what kind of problems your area of town has. So you'd be taking those notes at lineup. Your reputation so much depends on your report writing. Obviously, it depends on how you interact with your peers, how you interact with the public, how you interact with your supervisors, how you are on the stand in court. All of those things play into your reputation as a cop. But probably nothing has a bigger effect on your reputation than your report writing. Keep in mind, your reports, first of all, are going to go to your supervisor, who's going to approve them before they go on to be filed maybe with the district attorney or prosecutor. So you want to impress him or her. And then if the case does get filed and you end up in court, obviously the defense attorney is going to see that report, and they're going to use it against you while you're on the stand under oath testifying. So the report is very important, and without good notes, you're not going to have a good, complete report. So again, there's so much involved as far as knowledge in police work, and most of it comes from written materials. You're going to have standard operating procedures. You're going to have policy manuals. Used to be like 4-inch binders. Today, most of that's in the computer, but you're going to have to log in and keep up to date on all of those SOPs and those policy changes. And once you log in and hit a certain edition, you're expected to know that one. That shows that you've read it and you need to be aware of it. So you can't claim, oh, I didn't know we changed that rule. So somebody took notes to prepare those policies and those SOPs. So note-taking is everywhere. Right from the beginning of time, when we started recording things on the walls, to what we're talking about today. And we'll just talk about investigative notes for a major crime, like a murder. So those could become public records. We'll talk about that toward the end here. But go back to what I've talked about in other lessons, the who, what, when, where, why, and how of the event. So you go to the scene, a major crime, and you're going to start taking notes right away. What time did you arrive? Who did you first meet? What's the address? What direction does the house face? What type of house is it? Tri-level, one-level, ranch, brick, whatever it might be. Those are things that are going to go into a report eventually. So you're going to be taking those notes. You might be using a recorder. We'll talk about that toward the end also. That's a good idea. And quick and easy. And we've talked about that in the past, about interviewing people and basic investigations. So keep in mind that it could become a public document. And not only is the defense going to see your report when you're on the stand, the defendant himself, your peers in the audience, the judge, the jury, all of these people are going to be, could be exposed to your report. It starts with note-taking. So you get to the scene, you do the scene description, you're going to be taking statements from people. Obviously, you're documenting that who, what, when, where, why, and how. Document everything that you think might become important. You may document way more than you need to, and that's fine. But don't miss anything that might become important later, because it'll be used against you. Many times, a good defense attorney will hire a private investigator after law enforcement is finished with a scene. Sometimes the defense can go in and look at the scene, and they'll see things that you might have missed. So again, document everything that might become important later, even if it's more than you need. So that's kind of the things you need to think about as you're at a scene, interviewing people, making your observations. You're taking those notes. So what kind of questions would you be asking on a murder case? You know, who was killed? Who saw the person last? Who knows who the suspect might be? Who called this in? Who discovered the body? Who lives next door? There's just on and on. Who questions and what questions are the same way. What caused this death? What kind of weapon was used? What vehicles might have been seen in the area? What's the date and time? What was the date and time that you estimate that the death might have occurred or the crime might have occurred? Again, you can never ask too many what questions. When did you arrive? When was the crime discovered? When did someone last see the victim? When did someone possibly see our suspect? Lots of when questions related to time and dates. Where were you standing when you learned this information, when you're talking to a witness? Where did you hear this? Where did you last see the victim? Where did you discover this? Where did you discover that? All kinds of things there. Why? Why are you here discovering this crime? That might become important. Why are things moved? Often you're going to see that things get moved right away by someone discovering a major crime like that. So why did you move it? Sometimes there's a reason. Why did you call the police? Why didn't you call the police right away? Maybe it's a more important question. So then how do you know the victim? How did the crime occur? What's your theory on it? All those things. So the who, what, when, where, why, and how questions are all that you have to answer. Just like we talked about in another lesson on the back of your clipboard, you should always have those who, what, when, where, why, and how words written so you can remember to trigger those extra questions. And one question will lead you to another question, hopefully. So again, thinking about your reputation, it's going to be important, and reports are going to have a lot to do with your reputation. So What do we do with these notes? Well, after you leave the scene, you're going to go back to your office and you're going to either dictate or type out a long report. If you're using a tape recorder, that's great, some type of recording device. Often bigger departments have a typing pool where that can be transcribed. And you get that back and you review it, make sure it matches your notes, and everything that's in your notes went into that report. If you're just taking and typing it yourself off of your notes, again, make sure that everything that's in your notes that might become important later ends up in that report. Or you may get back to the office and use those notes to dictate your report, which goes to the typing pool. So, what do we do with these notes? If you've recorded them, I would suggest that you hang on to them. Those kind of become evidence at that point. So I wouldn't destroy those. I would save those. They may get subpoenaed and end up in court sometime. Now, you would want to check with your policy, with your department and your supervisor before you destroy any notes. But there's two theories on that. Some officers or detectives save every note that they take, and others destroy their notes after they make sure the report is complete and everything matches. I personally used to destroy my notes after I got my report back from the typing pool, and I would review it, go to my notes, check everything out 2 or 3 times. Many times your report will have to go back to the typing pool because they misunderstood something you said, minor details, or you may see that you missed something when you dictated off of those notes. So once all those problems are corrected, after checking 2 or 3 times, for me, I would then destroy my notes. And the main reason was because my notes were usually so sloppy that I couldn't read them a lot of times, and I didn't want my notes to be brought into the courtroom and have a defense attorney ask me what that word is, or I might have a misspelled word or something like that. So that was my theory and the way I operated for many, many years. And that was fine because I can testify that I always operate this way. I always destroy my notes, and I give them those reasons. So, again, that would be up to your particular department. Now, that's really about all there is to say about note-taking, other than it's very important. Excuse me again. Let me just give you a clue on something somebody tipped me off on many years ago. A good way to practice taking notes and see how good you are at obtaining and saving, documenting information in notes is to watch TV commercials and have a notepad. And just as the commercial, maybe it's a 30-second commercial, is running, you take some notes about the commercial. And then it's gone, and you review your notes and you think about what you learned from that commercial. Was it a good commercial, a poor commercial, whatever. But then have that handy for the next time that commercial comes on. Grab that note and see how much you missed from that first observation the first time you watched that commercial. And you're going to see you missed a lot. And take some additional notes. But that's a good way to practice. Just something that I did a few times to kind of prepare. A tip somebody gave me early on. So that's really all there is to this class. Just keep remembering who, what, when, where, why, and how is so important. And something I've stressed over and over is it's just the truth. You're just putting the truth. You're putting the facts through your notes into the report, and that'll eventually end up in court. So we're back to that word truth, where this all started. Live by that, and you'll be fine. That's it for today. Have a good one. Be safe. And I'll be back with another lesson very soon. Goodbye.